Hello. Um, it is July 3rd, Friday, 2020, and I just want to go over some things that I have on my bookshelf that I'm working on and reading. I have a lot of things that have to do with the Orthodox Church that I was looking through, working on reading, and stuff like that. So the last thing that I finished in toto was this one, Entering the Orthodox Church, by Metropolitan of Navpaktos Hierotheos. This book was given to me by the priest in the parish where I want to join the catechumenate. So I hope that happens, God willing. Hopefully that will happen soon. It's a good book for talking about what catechism is and what it entails. And it has every chapter is called Catechism 1, First Catechism, Second Catechism, so on. And I think there's 16 chapters. Seventeen catechisms, and then at the end there's different chapters about guidance after baptism. There's one chapter at the end about guidance after baptism and so on. So I remember I was trying to read another book of his, same writer, called Orthodox Psychotherapy. It's a little above my pay grade, and I was trying to, and I'll come back to it, I think, but one of the things that he talks about is that there's a threefold process of, in Orthodox Christianity, kind of there's a three steps, as it were, until the final one is deification, but first purification, then illumination. You kind of have to purify your faculty to actually perceive things properly. And this one was mostly about that step, the purification, and how that goes hand in hand with catechesis or catechism. I don't know if I'm using those words properly. So this was just a good breakdown of the basics. The first part was using the parable of the prodigal son and breaking it down part by part and what these things mean symbolically. And it was really interesting to hear the parable being, interpreted in that way. It wasn't as symbolic of a person's coming to the faith. And then the other part is about, just breaks down the creed, the Nicene Creed, part by part by part. So this was a good one, given to me by the priest of the parish that I want to join. And again, this is another book by the same author that I'm going to be poking into again, hopefully at some point, maybe when I'm a little bit more developed in my faith. I've heard people say that you should read this under the guidance of a spiritual father, too. So there is that. It's probably not for, general consumption in a way. I was also looking through this book. It's a very old edition of this Timothy Ware. I believe he is called Archbishop Callistos. I think that's what he's called now. And it says Bishop Callistos of Dioclea at this time, anyway. This is an old edition, 1963. Although this actual book probably is from later, 80s. But yeah, I've been hankering after reading some history, so I think I'll get back into this. I only got very basically at the beginning, and oh look, I just see that they're at the iconoclast controversy. So also got this book so I could read about that, to have kind of answers for people who are wondering about icons and whether, because I'm sure a lot of Protestants are this, that's not good. And I come from a Protestant background, so I want to learn more about what is the theology behind icons and stuff like that. This is 3 Treatises on the Divine Images by St. John of Damascus. I don't know if it's the same as On the Divine Images by St. John of Damascus. I don't think it is. So, this is the same series, Popular Patristics, that had the edition of Athanasius that I'm using for, which I don't have it here, which would be ideal if I'm reading it in a book group with my friends. We read about 5 to 8 sections every week of Athanasius on the Incarnation, and I have that edition, and my friends, this Popular Patristics one. And my friends have different editions with different translations, so it's kind of fun sometimes to see like how they do things, how the translators translated things differently, and that's cool. So since I'm on the theme of Orthodox books that I'm reading, I'll show some other ones. I have been working on this one for like a year. It is super short, but because of my spiritual state and like other attenuating factors and so on, it's taken me a very long time to get even to page 72 out of like a very short 113 with some appendices, right? So, For the Life of the World, Alexander Schmemann. I'm going to be working on this some more. I believe it is one of the required reading books for the catechism class, or the catechism program that I'm going to be in at this parish where I'm going to be joining. So I'm looking forward to reading this, finishing this rather. I've been reading it, going through probably and catching up on it. I also got a book by Theodore the Student. I don't have it here, but it's about on the holy icons. It's this also same Popular Patristics series. Yeah. And I know this is more Orthodox books. I also started The Life in Christ, and I'm reading that. And very deep about the sacramental life of the church. And it makes me want even more to be baptized and chrismated and become Orthodox so that I can fully participate in this, in the life in Christ. This book actually was written by a Byzantine I don't know what to call him, not a scholar, I suppose. Probably from, I think, the 14th or 15th century? 14th century. So, I will be dipping into this some more too. I was also enjoying and looking through, although some of the politics in it's a little odd, and this edition of mine is bound upside down. So, a book called The Illuminating Icon by Anthony Ugolnik. I don't know if I said that right. But it is pretty much about what he thinks, and it's kind of, I don't want to call it dated, but it's definitely a product of its time, which was, I believe, the late 80s. I suppose right before the Soviet Union fell. So it talks about what Western Christians can learn from Eastern Orthodoxy, and Russian Christians in particular, and their experience. So I'll just be having fun with this one too. I have an edition of the Confessions that I should get back into. It's a new translation, or a newish translation, by someone called Maria Bolding. And yeah, so I'll work on this. Okay, now to move on from things that are Orthodox, or I guess many people think of this as Catholic, but this was before the schism, pre-schism, so St. Augustine. translated by a nun, a Catholic nun, I believe. So what I'm working on also, I'm going to try and finish this book that my Irish teacher gave me a long time ago. This is pretty vintagey, this edition. It's pretty much like just a cultural exploration of, well, he says a Catholic country, so an account of a Christian culture in history and modern life. And when it says modern life, we're talking 1935. And this is the second printing. So it's cool. It's like a cultural exploration of facets of Irish culture in a very homey and not very objective way, with a lot of like the author's like kind of emotion and feeling for things in it. So yeah, I'm gonna try and finish this one. Gentle Ireland by Hugh de Blackham, who probably has some kind of Irish name that I can't pronounce, but it's not in this edition. And now finally, I leave for last the book I'm working on now that is just not even work, it's like just pleasure really, is the Barbara Pym that I'm going to be finishing. I'm going to be rounding off all her books. I've been reading them all this past year or so, just like getting them all in the mail and like making sure I have my own copy of every, even not so fancy copies of all of her oeuvre. And it's called Quartet in Autumn. It's her last published book, in a way, like her last written book before she died. But I think it's not her last. And there were other ones that were published after that she had written before that were just like posthumously published. So I'm really enjoying it. It is a little darker than like classic Pymmian fare from her early period, but it's really good. I really want to see what happens to the characters, even in their minor events in their lives and like their interactions and their thoughts about stuff and like their walks to the park and to the British Museum and through London finding churches and whatever. Just like, it's really cool to have these commonplace things be described in this like really keen way. So I'm enjoying it. That's Quartet in Autumn by Barbara Pym. It's the only work of fiction here. Yeah, all the others are a lot of Orthodox books, and yeah, I'm not really into reading fiction so much lately, except Barbara Pym. She's been my little refuge. And that's pretty much what I'm doing and reading, what I'm reading lately, what I should be reading. I'll go ahead and keep pushing myself to do that little by little. If I read a page or two a day in all these tomes, then at some point I should actually finish them, which would be great. So, thanks for watching. I should have said hello BookTube at the beginning, because I guess this is BookTube that I'm joining. So, well, goodbye BookTube for now.